Hello and welcome to the Special Shiny Podcast. This is a podcast about autism. I am your host, Stephen Milton, and this is...
Jenny Milton. I am the mother of our special shiny child, Thea.
Yes, and we are putting this podcast together, hopefully to provide resources or just inspiration for anybody who is working with a child with autism, who might be searching online for just a little bit of inspiration, or maybe even just to feel that they're not alone. That's the idea.
Right. Yes.
So this is episode 2, and in this episode we were lucky enough, this is the first interview that we were able to conduct, and we were lucky enough to get Kiri Lowry. And Kiri Lowry
great.
is great. Yes, she's great. Yeah.
She's like an angel, sent from above.
Yeah. Calm. No, she's great. She's absolutely
great.
fabulous.
I actually asked the principal if I could bring her home.
Yeah, anybody who's met Kiri thinks the world of her. So Kiri is a teacher, and she was an ASD teacher in the school that
For 4 years.
our Thea was in for 4 years.
She started with them, yes.
When the ASD class started, she was the first teacher, and she was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, great.
And we saw nothing but progress with Thea.
That's right.
As the years went on, it was the best, absolutely the best thing for her to have this ASD class.
Yeah, because she's not just a teacher for her, for them, but she's like, she went beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond and above. Is that how you say it?
Above and beyond.
Above and beyond.
Yeah.
And she's full of life.
Yeah.
Full of energy.
Yeah.
And I don't know where she gets all of that.
Yeah.
But she's just an amazing person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she will give you lots and lots and lots of insights.
Yes, she will.
And as I said, like if you met her, you just want to wrap her up and bring her home.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we creep her out too much with how much we appreciate her,
she knows that though.
She knows. Yeah, she does know. Yeah. So there were a couple of things that Kiri wanted to mention that during the interview she forgot to mention, and I'm going to say them now. She really, really, really wanted to include how much and how important it is to have the SNAs in the class.
Yes.
And how much she relies on them, and they are a really seriously important part of the ASD class because they are the first point of contact with the kids.
Absolutely.
And it's their hard work that really makes a difference. So Kiri wanted to make sure that we mentioned that first.
Can I mention Barbara?
Yeah, you can mention Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, Barbara is one of the, she was Thea's first SNA.
Yeah.
And was with Thea for the longest.
Yes. So Thea has her accent.
Yeah, Thea has the Manchester accent. That's right, yeah. But we really love Barbara, so thank you very much.
Yes, we do.
And the second thing that...
I cried when she left. No, she did not leave, but she went to a different class.
That's right, yeah.
So I actually cried inside.
Okay.
I want her back.
Yeah.
But because she's so good, I would be so happy to share her with the other children.
Okay. Yep, I get you. Yep. So the other thing that Kiri wanted to mention was the learning supports that sometimes they come into the school. The speech and language therapist, I think they've had them in.
Yeah.
She just wanted to highlight how important it is to have learning supports in an ASD class. And I think that's about it.
They have OT as well.
They have an OT that comes in from time to time, yeah.
I think they did reflexology as well, didn't they?
Yeah, but that's not learning sports. That's just like a...
That's just
a thing.
Just
yeah, and Thea didn't like it.
She did not.
She didn't like her feet being touched, so it's fine.
But she only got mommy to do that.
Yeah. So we won't keep it too long. We want you to get to the interview and to enjoy the interview. And is there anything else to say? Oh, the last thing we'd say, the interview starts off with me pouring Kiri a cup of coffee. And the whole point of that is that we do want to include coffee and tea in our podcast. And the reason for that would become clear much later on. We're not affiliated to any company.
Nope.
So, but you know what? If there's a good cup of coffee in front of us, I'm going to plug it. Just out of love, And it happened to be a really nice cup of coffee in front of us. So much so that I'm dying to get another bag of it. So that was 3FE, third floor roasters, La Luzion, and it was super good. So you'll hear all about that in the first part of the podcast. So hold on to your hats, and we hope you enjoy this. Now, you love coffee?
I'm a good fan of coffee, yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect.
I'll go visit the new setup when it's set up.
Yeah, do. So, now, sorry, this is oat milk, by the way.
That's okay.
Is oat milk okay? Okay. Now, okay, so this coffee here is brought to you by, and this is not an affiliate thing, this is just literally us plugging coffee because we love coffee, 3FE.
Okay.
So it's a Honduras called Lucan, and it's washed, and it has hints of butterscotch.
You can taste that.
You can. Isn't it great?
It's really sweet. It's nice.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And plum and something else, raisin, I think it is. So it's a really nice coffee.
Yeah, different. Nice. Really nice.
So, first and foremost, thank you very much for doing this.
No problem at all.
Really appreciate it. The first thing we're going to do is ask you to just introduce yourself, if you don't mind. Please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kiri Lowry. I am a primary school teacher, and for the past 4 years, I have taught in an ASD class.
Okay, fantastic. And what made you want to work in an ASD class?
To be honest with you, I fell into it.
Yeah.
I've always had an interest in people with special needs, and outside of school, I would have been involved with more adults with special needs than children, but I would have been involved with a social group for adults with special needs. So I suppose I've always had some sort of interest in special needs. And then in the mainstream classroom, it was always the children who had special needs that really always caught my eye and I had an interest towards, I suppose.
What were the challenges working with kids with special needs? What did you find was the most challenging thing?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, okay.
You know, you don't know, I suppose, like I wouldn't have said, even from, let's say, training to be a primary school teacher, I didn't feel like we had enough put about special needs.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like you have enough knowledge base to deal with things or to understand each, I suppose, diagnosis or disability.
Yeah.
So it's more, I suppose, the more, I suppose, knowledge you get, the easier it is and the more you understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, defo, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. I worked 15, 16 years ago as an SNA in Enable Ireland in Sandymount. And the reason I did it was because I was kind of terrified of people in wheelchairs and how could you help them, or what would they were you going to insult people by saying, do you want any help or anything like that? So I actually decided to go and work in Enable Ireland, and it was fantastic. And one of the things was it demystified everything. Yeah. So you just don't have that fear anymore, and it turns out it's one of the best and most rewarding jobs ever.
Well, I grew up, so my mum set up, it's called the Hangout Club, so it's a social outlet for adults with a disability. So I grew up always being like Christmas parties, pantos with them. So I never, to be honest with you, I never had the fear. Yeah. Because I suppose I was exposed to special needs from a very young age. Yeah. That it was just, I suppose that's never been an issue for me, is the fear. But I can see it in other people, not understanding not having the knowledge. But it's more when you become a teacher is the fear of not being able to teach the child. Yes. That kind of way, that you want to be able to, but it's almost like you're second questioning yourself. Right. Do I know enough to be able to facilitate this child? Yeah, okay. And? I do now. That's the question is answered. So it's experience, right? 100%. Yeah. And an interest. You have to have an interest in special needs. You do. You have to want to work in special needs. Yes. To be in special needs. Yeah. There has to be a spark to it, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's not for everyone. It's vocational, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It's like teaching. Teaching isn't for everybody. No. And special needs teaching is the same. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And just what amount of kind of training did you actually receive when you decided you wanted to go and work in the ASD class? I assume you had to do a summer course. Technically, if you are a qualified primary school teacher, you are qualified to go into an ASD class or a special school or a special class. Now, of course, as being a teacher, and I say every teacher working in a special class has gone and got themselves courses. Mm-hmm. So I had senior infants before I went into the ASD class, and I did courses. I went and did understanding autism or, general autism, that I had a better understanding. Yeah. I also did an awful lot of reading. Yeah. And got really good books that gave me a much better knowledge base. Yeah. And then while I was in the job, I suppose my first year, I did an awful lot of courses. There's a thing called SESS.ie, and I did an awful lot of their courses, which were day courses, where you you actually left the class and went for a day and were trained up in different things. So like DIR, floor time. Probably the best one was TEACH. Have you ever heard the TEACH approach?
No.
It's American. So it's basically the structure for teaching children with autism.
Yeah.
So my entire classroom is set up to the TEACH model.
Yeah.
So, the coloured chairs, that each child has a colour, or, that every area of the classroom is zoned. So basically it takes all the unpredictability out of the classroom and puts structure in your classroom.
Yes.
Unlike the mainstream, where it has a structure but not near as much structure as an ASD class.
Yeah.
Like they would be like, and then the most is the on-the-job experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the longer you're in it, I suppose, the more you get to know the kids.
Yeah.
And the easier it gets. But yeah, on the job experience, you can't beat it.
Yeah. And actually, here's the point. So in an ASD class, how many children are normally in the class? And I suppose your school is particularly, we're particularly grateful that our child was in your class. But what was even better news was that you were opening a second ASD class, so one for juniors and one for seniors and stuff.
Well, it's not necessarily. It's just two ASD classes. So it's technically not a senior ASD class and a junior.
Okay.
It just happened with the way our needs fell that we have a senior and a junior. It won't always be like that.
Okay.
It's all needs dependent.
Yeah, okay.
Especially since, I suppose, ASD classes, unlike, let's say, if a child is in an ASD class and they're in first class, you teach to where they're at.
Yeah.
They might be in first class, but they could be doing third class maths and senior infant English.
Yeah.
You teach them where they're at. It's so catered for their needs.
Yeah.
So, for example, in an ASD class, it's technically not senior and junior. You could put someone whose needs are more similar to, let's say, a child who's 3 years older than them.
Yeah.
It's very much works on, I suppose, their ability.
Yeah. Okay. And so it actually needs to be quite a small class.
Well, the rules with special classes is max 6 children.
Okay.
To one teacher.
Yeah.
And then for every 3 children, you get an SNA.
Okay.
So if you have 3 children in your class, you get 1 SNA. If you have 4 children in your class, you get 2 SNAs.
Okay.
Because you've gone over the ratio of 3 to 1.
Yeah.
So I suppose the magic number would technically be 4 because you'd have more resources.
Yeah.
But 6 is the most you can have.
Okay. Which is...
For obvious reasons.
Yeah, for obvious reasons, that they need individualised attention and so on and so forth.
And it's so busy.
It's so busy. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Like within the class, what are the challenges that stuck out in the first year? Like what was the biggest challenge for you in the first year?
Switching off my teacher brain.
Okay.
And not trying to push them constantly, because in a mainstream class you're very much, I have to get this done. Whereas in an ASD class you're aiming for where the child is at.
Yeah.
And it could be it is baby steps sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make huge improvements in one and you could be working on another aspect for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So it's taking it at the children's pace. It's one of the best things I got told is when you meet a child with autism, you've met one child with autism.
Yes.
Every single child is completely different. Their needs are completely different.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now, there is things, I suppose, that go overall, like structure, visuals. They help everybody, but that always stayed in my mind that you have to very much tailor it towards that specific child.
Yeah.
And you will approach children completely different depending on their needs.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so just out of interest, what are the initial protocols and practices that you feel were of the most benefit to your class?
Right. Start from where the child is at. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Instead of looking at, they're in 5th class, I have to teach them 5th class.
Yeah.
You just go from where they are ready to go from. Structure. Familiarity, routine, taking the unpredictability of school away and putting a structure in place that they understand. They get it, that there's no surprises.
Yeah.
Looking at the triggers to behaviours rather than just reacting to a behaviour. You look at what caused the behaviour first.
Okay.
If they're having a meltdown, what caused that?
Yeah.
Is it that they couldn't get their coat off and they didn't know how to ask for help? Is it that they're too hot? Is it that they're sick? You look at the trigger rather than reacting to the behaviour. Clear consequences. Very much feel like that. There is consequences to behaviour, that they learn, that there is rules and they have to follow them, and there's consequences for breaking them rules. But also being very black and white with them. So when you promise something, you keep your promise. Like you're letting down the kids and you make it much harder for them to understand you if you don't follow through. I really find that was really important. What else would there be? Work to their interests. You know, you have to capture what they like to almost open the world of learning to them. You learn from what they want to learn, and then it opens up and you can expand. But I always felt like if you can start with things they're interested in, you tap into it, and you tap into them, and their world opens up, I suppose. Break things down into small amounts. Like, don't just expect them to understand that in assembly we're all quiet. You know, they don't pick up on them social cues like every other, let's say, mainstream child. They need to be maybe taught that first we do this, then we do this. Really breaking down into small amounts for them to understand. And then, what would it be? Labelling emotions.
Okay.
So, if a child is feeling sad, I can see you're sad today, you're crying, and it's okay to be sad, but it's not okay to be punching the wall. You know, that you're labelling that it's okay to feel the way you are, but maybe one of their behaviours is not acceptable. And really having that conversation, I can see you're sad and it's okay that you're sad. But maybe you shouldn't be drawing on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, how about we do this instead?
Yeah.
And really trying to, I suppose, get them to understand their own emotions.
Yeah. Actually, our Tia is so honed in on emotions.
Hugely.
You know, hugely honed in. And so all of the time it's like, Daddy, how did you feel? Daddy, how did you feel? How did you feel? A lot of the time it's like looking for, Daddy, how did you feel when you were giving out?
Miss Larry, how do you feel when he doesn't have his homework done?
Right, exactly, yeah.
How cross, how furious.
And so we've gone from like, this is cross at the bottom and this is, 0. And then 10 is furious and uber furious and all the rest. And so we've gone through these levels and
but
stuff,
she understands
which is really interesting,
And she gets it though.
Yeah, but she's kind of, it's fascinating that she has had to quantify the whole thing for herself so that she can put it on a scale and go, okay, I don't have to react too badly to this because Daddy's just cross, so he's not going to have a flip out.
Exactly, and it's the same in school.
Yeah.
She needs to know, and even with other children, she almost, I suppose, Thea has an awful lot of empathy for others.
Absolutely,
so
she does.
She wants to know, like, how cross are you with that child for not having their homework done? Or how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
And sometimes she will be asking me things I've completely forgotten about.
Yeah.
That they were so trivial to me, but she picked up on it.
That's right. Yeah. Same at home. Like, what did you, in 2013, how did you feel when this happened? And you're like, and I'm trying to explain the whole idea that emotions are like rivers. You don't hold on to things and all the rest. But she doesn't seem to be able to do that. That's one of those kind of challenges that we're having at the moment, to try and explain that concept that I can feel this way and then I can let it go.
But she's so good at memory, though.
Yeah,
her memory is amazing.
That's right, yeah.
Like, I don't think she'll ever forget. I think she's like an elephant. She never forgets.
Yeah, she'll never forget. I know. So we're kind of circumnavigating that whole thing that it's okay for her to have this as her thing, like as in like she's not letting go of these feelings. That's okay. That's her thing. But we're also trying to teach her that because 10 minutes ago I felt this way, does not mean I feel the same way now. That feeling is gone and something else has arrived. And that's one of those
you wipe the slate clean almost.
Yeah, and there's a funny story actually with the book I'm reading at the moment is Angry White Pajamas by Robert Twigger, and she loves it because she's like, Daddy, how did the pajamas feel? How do the pajamas feel? And I'm like, angry. How angry? How angry do they feel? Are they furious? And what do they do if they feel angry? I'm like, they hit each other because it's about Aikido and stuff like that, But it's just hilarious that she's so interested in emotions and stuff,
The only thing is, I think it's good for Thea as well, though, that she understands the different emotions. And then, let's be honest, she has far more joyous and happy feelings more than the other ones.
That's
but
right.
That at least she knows in life, everything is not always roses.
Yes.
That it's not always happy.
That's
that
right.
you are going to have to go through hard times as well.
Yeah.
But they pass.
Yeah.
And that she's learning, I suppose, that emotions do pass, and that I suppose things that are hard do pass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope she learns it. Because, well, she's
a happy child.
She is a pretty happy kid, but she's always kind of on the lookout for a disaster or something like that. And I know that's a signifier with children with autism like that. They have that kind of, is it the lizard brain thing or whatever? But basically, they have the spider sense for danger and stuff like that.
Fight or flight, they're always on that edge of.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's just something she'll have to get through and process. So one other question I'd like to ask you is, what were your experiences when dealing with parents? Okay, now I know this is a tricky question and you don't want to insult anyone and all the rest, and it's not really about that. It's, I suppose, about how to communicate with parents. So how do you navigate parents' expectations versus what you see in terms of a child's ability? I mean, it must be hard when parent comes in and they kind of have an idea of their kid, and you're doing an assessment, you've been with them for a few months, and you're like, what you're telling me and what your child is obeying before, you may be in for a bit of a bad news. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think
has it ever happened?
I would always be of the opinion that you have to be aware that they have their child's best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And you have to know, you have to almost put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And see it from their point of view.
Yeah.
I also feel honesty is best policy. I really do. Like, my job in some ways is opening up them conversations and possibly steering them and taking them down a road they haven't been down before, and trying to open up them conversations of, are they ready for this yet?
Yeah.
Or also then, let's say if it is something like, I think my child should be mainstreamed fully. Yes, but baby steps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just picking that as random.
I know,
but
yeah.
It is baby steps. It's not like, no, we're not going to do that. They will be capable of it. But let's just take it bit by bit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, when you do take baby steps, how things do open up. Like, I've always had very positive experience with parents. I do feel it does help if you are open and honest and, a team approach, because what I'm doing in school shouldn't just be in school. If you have a team approach to things towards their child, you can see it works so much better if everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah.
Even for the child's understanding that, this is how it works.
Yeah.
So this is how the world works. That everyone is almost working together for the end result.
Yeah. And just to say on that, I mean, like, one of the things that we really appreciated was when we would get, say, social stories coming home, for things like, so we would have talked about, we would have come to you and we would have said, Tia's doing this at the moment. You would have been like, okay, we'll do a social story, we'll cover it in school. And I mean, it's fantastic, because as a parent, like, it's not always easy to structure everything, because we have more than one child.
Exactly.
And so life sort of is very unpredictable in general, and you're really trying your best to incorporate everything and structure everything for your child with autism. But then your other kids are coming and going, no.
Exactly. And we might be one of the few people who actually gets where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I am always aware that we might be one of the few people who actually understands what your world might be.
Yeah.
And even at that, we don't, because I have your child for 6 hours. Now, they're my responsibility for them 6 hours, but at the end of the day, they're not my child. I don't technically have to worry about their future in 10 years' time. Now, I like to think that I do think about that, but, they're not my responsibility, they're yours. And I always think that that's a helpful way to approach it, that you have to do what's best for that child.
Yeah.
And support the parents, because for all you know that their child is an angel in school and a demon at home, that they've held it in, their bucket is almost full and it's just keeping there, and the second they get in the car to go home, it overflows and you're getting the worst of the behaviour, which is I honestly feel that happens an awful lot with children with ASD, because they know they have to behave in school. You're their safe space. They let loose in their safe space.
Yeah, I know this happened to us enough times, like, especially coming back from the summer holidays. It's just one of those times where, like, a week in, and she'll just be kicking the seats in the back of the car and stuff, and you're like, okay, on one level I understand what this is, on another level I really wish she wasn't doing this, because we've had the summer holidays, and normally the last 3 weeks of that summer holidays would be difficult, and I'm being kind of...
Well, no, an awful lot of parents will say they dread their holidays, because holidays means no structure.
Yeah.
And they're coming from an extremely structured setting of an ASD class to a week, if not 8 weeks off, where it's extremely hard to structure 8 weeks. You can't.
Yeah.
So I'm always aware of that, and we would always, let's say at the start of, let's say, September, we give them a 2-week settling in. We don't put too much expectations on them.
Yeah.
We just want them to settle in and get used to just being back in school and back, I suppose, knowing that there's going to be demands on them.
Yeah.
But I think an understanding and, working with parents, they're not against you.
No.
That's how I would always feel. Like, the parents aren't out to get you, or, they just want what's best for their child.
I agree. with you. However, I suppose what you suffer from is, I suppose, being representative of the system. So when I was working as an SNA, I remember just so many parents being
angry,
like Iron Mike. They were fighting all the time.
They have spent months, if not years, fighting for their child.
That's
and
right.
Supports.
Yeah.
So aware that all we can be is an ear.
Yeah.
And an understanding ear, because we're fighting for them supports as well, because we need them. We need the OTs, we need the SLTs. We're not qualified in that area.
Yeah.
So I suppose we can lend that ear, because sometimes maybe that's all a parent wants to do is vent.
Yeah.
And we might be the only ear that kind of gets it.
Yeah.
Let them vent.
Yeah.
We all at times in life need to just let it out, and they probably feel better for it. And we maybe as teachers can understand it that little bit more, because we are working with their child.
Yeah.
We get their frustrations. We have our frustrations too with the system. Now, in some ways, I would say autism, as a diagnosis, there is more support than others. Than other diagnoses where they're really fighting. That autism, I suppose, has now become far more, I suppose, there's more of an awareness about it. So there is more resources given, and people have a better understanding of how to deal with people with autism. And, you'll see like Super Values doing autism nights and things like that. Like, that was not around when I was a kid.
That's right, yeah.
They were just, or even like in my parents' time, if you were special needs, you were down the back and ignored. At least now the system, I suppose, is trying to. Now, they might not be completely successful at it, but they're trying to, I suppose, facilitate the children with special needs.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, no, and we recognise that, like, we can see how much is being done, and it's fantastic, considering as well that I suppose it's an invisible disability or need. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people just don't see how severe your child is and how much they need, and so that's we've had some absolutely amazing experiences with people where we'd be sitting beside them and they'd be having a really hard time and stuff, and they'd be like, yeah, it's okay. Either I have a sister who's like that, or I have an uncle who's, whatever way, however they end up sitting beside us, it's just like, oh wow, this is fantastic. But conversely, we have had those experiences in shops and places like that where people are like, you should teach your child some manners. Yeah,
but they don't realise. Yeah. Where she's coming from.
No.
Or probably how far she has come on her road.
Yeah. That's right.
What I hate is hearing people, you might hear people, can you fix them almost? And you're like, autism is not something you can fix.
No.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But that's just ignorance.
Yeah.
And I think knowledge is a key, and experience helps. The more you can, I suppose, expose somebody to special needs, the more they become, I suppose, accepting of it and understanding.
Yes, absolutely.
And open.
Yeah. Actually, following on from that then, off the top of your head, would there be any particular resource or book that you would kind of recommend? Anything come to mind? Like for us, and one of the episodes we're doing would be kind of listing a few resources that we think are absolutely fantastic. When the first person that comes up is Temple Grandin.
Yes, yeah. Oh my God, amazing, yeah.
Right, so we've read a few of her books, The Autistic Brain.
And she does an awful lot of seminars.
She does an awful lot of stuff online as well. So, it's like when we were initially trying to find information about autism, and we were in that kind of blank space of like, well, she's missed certain early interventions because she was diagnosed at 4 or 5. So she missed certain interventions. We did a couple of programs, they were good, but there weren't that many there. So, what we found was, and I think a lot of people with children with autism find that it's the parents and the people who are working with the kids all the time that are the real educators. It's peer-to-peer learning, because like you can get that whole headology, but then the experience of what it's like when your child is having his 6th meltdown or her 6th meltdown on the day, how do you cope and all that kind of stuff, and what are the things? Those things are peer-to-peer. Those things are.
But that's the same with teachers. We go on courses, and most of us will say what we take from it best is actually just talking to other teachers who are in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
Having, someone else to be like, oh, I had that, try this might work. Their experience and sharing their knowledge I always find that the best from courses is talking to other teachers.
Yeah.
I remember reading A Curious Incident of a Dog in the Night
before
I ended up going into the autism class, and I always found that interesting. I'm now watching on Netflix Atypical.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah.
Now it is a more humorous side to autism.
Yeah,
but I find like even it shows the parents struggle with it.
That's right.
You know, I find that brilliant. I that's one of my favorite things actually to watch on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a great show. We started watching it from the minute it came out, and it was great. The only thing is, I suppose, as a parent, you kind of trawl through everything for little nuggets of information. And I think one of the complaints was that the autism there was too generalised.
Yes.
Having said that, in season 2, what they did was really good. Was they brought in a load of autistic actors. So
okay, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so when he's in the group, when he's talking in the group, they're all
that's
they're all on the spectrum. He's the only one who's not on the spectrum. So, you know, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. But as a parent, you are never switched off in a way. You know, when something about autism comes up, you're always looking for that little bit of gold that you can take home and kind of learn from. And one of the things that, like, one of the biggest lessons for us was the 10-second rule, about when you ask a question, wait 10 seconds for an answer, because it can take a while for your kid to process with all the other information.
They would have been things we would have picked on courses.
Yeah.
Like their receptive language is not as good.
Yeah.
Or another tip would be that if you do ask a question and you are going to ask it again, you repeat the exact same question.
Okay.
So if it's pick up your bag, you don't go, can you please pick up your bag? Because that's two requests you've done. So they have to process 2 sentences rather than just one. So if you are going to repeat yourself, you repeat exactly what you said.
That is fascinating. That I kind of, probably was told, but just can't remember, you know?
We naturally, as teachers especially, we always rephrase.
Sure.
That is something I have learned. So if I'm like, can you get out your pencil case? I say it again, can you get out your pencil case, after maybe 5 or 6 seconds.
Okay.
You don't rephrase it.
Yeah. Wow.
Because you're putting, again, another expectation on them to process 2 different things.
Yeah.
Because they can't generalise that that's the same thing you're asking them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. You know, it's funny, you forget so much, like, after a while, and then, you know, you get reminded of it. That's brilliant.
Or another thing would be, like, getting down to their eye level.
Okay.
Getting down to where they're at, especially when they are upset or, you know, their bucket is overflowing. Get down to their eye level. Don't expect them to look up at you or look down at you. You know, really meet them where they're at. And I always find that really helpful, because then it's just you and them interacting.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It does, yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, just out of interest, when you had the ASD class, because you've moved into mainstream,
yes,
but you're still teaching our daughter, so that's why we're having this discussion here. So, and our daughter is currently spending a number of days in mainstream school almost full time, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'd say she's around 60% in the mainstream classroom, if not more.
And that is, we're delighted, like, do you know what I mean? It gives us hope for the future.
But I'm even surprised. So from going from the ASD class into the mainstream, I'm even surprised on how successful she is within the mainstream.
Yeah.
Like, she's even surpassing my expectations.
That's fantastic.
No, she really is.
Yeah.
She's an absolute, you know how much I love her.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And like, you know, when I think about it, she's gone from spending an awful lot of time walking corridors back before the unit was set up. Screaming because she wasn't able to cope in a room full of 27 other children or whatever, where we felt we were gutted because she wasn't getting any kind of, you know, education. She just wasn't in that space to get it.
She wasn't ready to learn.
Yeah, she wasn't ready to, you know, and just the whole thing was too much for her. So the class, the ASD class, once that was instigated, once she attended the class, what we saw was just leaps and bounds. Now, they weren't like aha moments, you know, they did kind of happen gradually.
It's gradual, yeah.
But you would kind of wake up one day and realise, oh, she's reading everything and she can read the clock. Oh, wow, holy God, what the hell is going on?
You go from her screaming every day to realising you haven't had screaming. Or, you know, one thing with children with ASD, it's the communication. They struggle to communicate.
Yeah.
Giving them the power to communicate, to express themselves, to be able to ask and realise, I suppose they say children with autism don't realise that other people are there, can actually help them.
Yeah.
They don't realise that, you know, that person can help me if I just go and say this to them.
Yes.
That you're almost opening a world that, you know, this can get you, if you ask for this will get you what you want.
Yes.
If you try this approach, this will get you this.
Yes.
You know, you're opening up ways of communicating. And once they can communicate, I feel an awful lot of their frustration is lifted.
Yes.
They're able to express themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree, actually, because, you know, I think there was a moment where both myself and Jed fell off our chairs when she turned around and said, Daddy, can you help me with this? And we were like, Oh my God.
Tia communicated from drawing. Like drawing was her way of communicating.
Yeah.
And then once she got, I suppose, the language for communication, that changed to where, she was still drawing, but she was almost being able to express herself through the drawing and words.
Yes.
And now it's far more reduced with drawing and it's words.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, absolutely. And another thing I want to highlight, I suppose, as well, and I'm going to get teary when I talk about this, so bear with me, is that last year Tia put herself forward for Scumware's Got Talent. Okay? And this was such a groundbreaking thing for us, like, because she had decided this on her own with no pressure. And then she came home and she said to the girls, she was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to sing? And
but the choice of
Ella
song
suggested, Karina suggested fight song. And then she put it out there and it was just like, oh my God. And I was in hospital at the time watching this. So I'm in a cubicle with 6 other sick people, and like I'm crying, like literally sobbing.
You weren't the only one. An awful lot of teachers cried.
And that's, I suppose, what I wanted to highlight, the fact that in this school there's just so much love for her, and people were reacted so much to her putting herself out there, and we got so many comments from parents and everything just saying, isn't she amazing to have done this and everything else. And then she went and won the School Spirit Award. That was a massive thing for her, because then the next minute she came home and she was like, I want to do Ireland's Got Talent.
There you go.
And this is somewhere in the future she wants to do this. And
I think you have to look at kids with special needs, or with special needs, even autism, and be like, instead of trying to stop them from doing things, look at how you can actually structure it so they can do it.
Yeah.
So that there is opportunities, that they are able to try out. Like, I think she tried out the year before, but she wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
Right, she tried out like everyone else, and she earned her spot like everybody else.
Yes, we knew that.
And that's, like, just because she has special needs doesn't mean she got in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I thought was important as well, that she has to earn her spot like every other child.
Yes.
One thing about having an ASD class attached to a school is it's so good for not only staff but children. Like, it teaches so much to the mainstream class: tolerance, understanding of difference. An ASD class benefits everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Every class that has a child who's integrated into their mainstream class benefits from having a child coming in from the ASD class.
Yeah.
Because they can see how they learn differently, but how they're able to learn. That anything is possible, I suppose. I think it's so important for kids. They don't see the differences.
Yeah.
They see Tia as Tia.
Yeah.
And Tia in the class, I can't say is any different to the rest of my kids. I treat her like everybody else.
Yes.
I might possibly tweak a few things, but not much.
Yeah.
And the kids just treat her like she's just one of the 27 other kids.
Yeah.
Which is lovely, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I mean, one of the biggest challenges Tia has is socialisation. The fact that, like, and you'll hear so many kids go, like, as they're walking by, hi Tia, and Tia would be like totally ignoring them, or shut up, or whatever, she's doing her thing. And then she'll go home and she'll be like, I want my friends. And you're like, oh, come on, kid.
But she has friends.
Yeah.
In here, like, this class are so aware that it's on Tia's terms.
Yeah.
So they might try interact and Tia might not be there.
Yeah.
But in 2 minutes later, Tia could turn around and ask them a question and they are just right there willing to answer.
That's lovely.
Or, if we're going for a walk, she might hold one of the girls' hands. And there'll never be a, oh, what are you doing? It'll just be like, yeah, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And not in a, oh, I'm minding Tia way. More in a, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
They don't see difference in this class in some ways. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's such a lovely tolerance level that difference is almost embraced. And, everybody has a place in this class, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You'd never... They're lovely with Tia.
Yeah.
And that might be down to they've grown up with Tia.
Yeah.
Tia is just Tia. And it's the same with all the other kids in the other class. They just see the child as the child. They don't see the diagnosis like adults do.
Yeah.
They don't go, oh, Tia has autism. They just go, that's Tia.
Yeah.
Tia's humorous, and Tia, like, when she goes up to the board, will shout out the answers out loud.
Yeah.
That's her way of processing.
Yeah.
They don't see it as, oh, that's autism.
Yeah, absolutely.
They see past, I suppose, the diagnosis, which that's what I love about children.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They just get on with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is lovely.
It is lovely. Yeah, it makes it. Yeah, it is.
Well, most parents worry about their children with autism having friends.
That's it.
Now, I have to say, from my 4 years, all of them have found a niche. And all of them, especially within the ASD class, they get on so well.
Yeah.
There's almost like a bond between them. They just, they're friendly with each other and they'll mix. And it doesn't matter about age or, they just find an interest. So for a long time, it was Angry Birds in my classroom and they just went with it. And they all had an interest in Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Last year, I know it was Snakes and Ladders. They all sat down and played Snakes and Ladders together.
The Gruffalo Snakes and Ladders.
Exactly.
Yeah, broke our hearts trying to find that. Yeah.
But that was, something that they all got on with. And in here, it's the same.
Yeah.
They find the kids that they have an interest in.
Yeah.
And have an interest with. So it could be drawing, it could be sport, and they just run with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, brilliant, isn't it? Last question, you've kind of answered. Is there a stigma attached to an ASD class? Have you come across resistance from any side regarding the chances a child receives by attending an ASD class? Actually, I'd like to rephrase that, I suppose, in the sense that from talking to other teachers, say on courses and things like that, do other classes have that? Because you definitely have an emphasis on academics, right? You definitely have an emphasis on kids, right? Okay. But you're not letting them away with much in terms of they have to do their work and, all this kind of stuff. I know, if Tia hasn't got her work done on a particular day, that's absolutely fine. You're not like a demon about it. But
I wouldn't have even said I had an emphasis on academics.
I think so. I mean, I think so. I mean, how, in terms of going forward, in terms of when Tia goes into a secondary school, like she probably won't go into an ASD class. They probably, so many secondary schools just don't have them. What they have is resource time, and then they have the mainstream class. And we're feeling maybe a little bit less nervous about that now because at the moment she is spending so much time in a mainstream class. I can only imagine how difficult it is for parents who have children who aren't spending as much time in a class like that. So,
I think it's much harder for parents with children with autism and an intellectual disability, especially to find resources and schools and where do they go next, especially after primary school. Where do they go secondary school wise? Because, your child has autism but doesn't have an intellectual disability, which means they're academically able somewhat for the mainstream education. Yeah. I think I feel, I suppose, it's much harder on a parent who has a child with an intellectual disability as well. Yes. Because there's more challenges. Where do they go for their learning then? Yep. If the mainstream is not going to facilitate their learning. And then do we go to a special school? And then there's a fear about sending their child to special school. And again, it's the fear of the unknown. Or the fear of, I suppose, they would have grown up with special schools being the old ways, where it was very much thrown in, lock the key, and pretend special needs people were almost hidden away. Yeah. Where I think, there's so much to be said for special schools now. Like, they do fantastic jobs. Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a stigma to an ASD class. Like, we opened a second ASD class last year because the first ASD class was such a success. And not only for a success for the kids involved, but for the whole school. Mm-hmm. It brings, I don't know, another layer to the school. And it's a brilliant layer. It's lovely. It adds to the school rather than it puts challenges on the school. It really adds. And a lot of the teachers who aren't involved in the ASD class at all, or might have had been the mainstream class teacher, will say how much they enjoy having some sort of involvement with a child with ASD. I personally wouldn't say there's a stigma. I'd say knowledge and experience help break down the fears. I think it's more teachers, the fear of not being able to teach them rather than, but once you get the knowledge and the experience, your fears, you don't have them anymore. So there's more tolerance, understanding. What else would I say? No, I think I wouldn't fear for Tia for secondary school, but it would, I know it's kind of gone the way that I think every primary school and secondary school will at some stage have a special class attached to them. Hopefully. Fingers, yeah. Absolutely, hopefully, But it won't suit every child. No. It's not for everyone. I suppose with special needs, you're trying to cater for that child's specific needs. Yeah. And the same in an ASD class, you have to cater for that child's specific needs. Mm-hmm. You're saying, oh, you're so surprised, but Tia's ready to learn. and she's learning at the level she's at.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same for every other child. You know, it's not like she will be capable. She might not be capable of all in secondary school, but she'll definitely be able for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because she's academically ready.
Yeah.
And capable of learning.
Yeah.
She's better maths brain than I have.
Yeah, and mine as well. You know, I mean, it's we have great fun at home.
Oh my God,
throwing out these huge sums, and she'd be like, yeah, 250,000.
But even here, she loves to show off that.
Yeah.
And you know, that's her way of building her self-esteem.
Yes, that's fantastic. Now that's very interesting. I was going to cut it, but you know what? Can we talk about one other thing? So, self-esteem for children with autism. In all of your years of experience, have you found that self-esteem plays a part for the child in learning? Because obviously, with mainstream children, self-esteem plays a big role in terms of learning, and people, you know, teachers have realised that, psychologists have realised that, and now there's an awful lot of emphasis on it's very child-centred here in Ireland, which I think is amazing. And self-esteem is so important in helping build up children to encourage them to learn, and it's actually, I think, proven at this point. Yeah. To have just a fantastic effect. For children with autism, how does that work? Can you see in some kids that their self-esteem might be a little lower, or that resistance to learning might be sort of tied in with self-esteem?
I think it's even more important, because I remember reading, in one of the 4 years, that children with autism are far more likely to have mental health issues. So depression, and suffer from depression, because they are so isolated from society, because they struggle to understand society.
Yeah.
That's always stayed in the back of my head, that you need to build up their self-esteem is vital. You need a happy child. You know, you need them to feel wanted and loved and needed. I've always played, and that's not just with autism. The way I teach is building up a child and building their confidence, because I think if you can get a child who's happy in themselves and enjoys learning, you've got them for life. If you can make a child love learning, they're going to be a learner for the rest of their lives. I think it's so important, confidence for any child. Like, take special needs out of it. You know, if you have a child who's confident in themselves, who's happy, who, you know, is not afraid to share their own opinion, you know, you've basically got a well-formed adult when they're older. You know, I think self-esteem for anybody at any age, it's vital. So I think it's important that kids feel like their opinion counts.
Yeah.
And especially kids in some ways with autism, that you're listening to them.
Yeah.
And I would always say, like, one of the things, if a kid's talking, you never interrupt them. Like, because that's showing that their opinion isn't valid. You listen. Mm-hmm. Because their opinion is valid. Yeah. And just because I would always say to my class, just because you're young doesn't mean, you know, you don't have amazing ideas or opinions. Or, you know, you're at the age now where the world is limitless. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. If you work hard enough, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. You can be whatever you want to be. Yeah. I think it's important that kids feel like they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. Yeah. You know.
And how does that work with kids with autism? Because I suppose in a way there's a certain, it's like a grey area in a way. I mean, when I look at Tia, you know, and the feedback that Tia gives us, I mean, it's all on Tia's terms. So it's very hard to just kind of turn around and go, hey, Tia, how's your self-esteem? You know, or how are you feeling today? And you'll get a very stock answer of like, fine, go away, leave me alone, I'm doing my thing. So you have to observe very carefully how she's getting on, look at the pictures that she's drawing, and they were all the indicators that we used. Is she drawing happy faces? Is she drawing sad faces? So there's a lot of tears. So why is there a lot of tears? Well, expectations are not being met. Okay, so how do we help with that? You know what I mean? She has to learn that expectations won't be met, but at the same time, maybe some expectations can be met, and so on and so forth. That's kind of how we got a fair indication of how Tia's mental health was. Yeah. With kids who are maybe, who have educational needs, what am I trying to say? What's that term you were using? Because my brain's gone dead.
Intellectual
disabilities, where maybe communication is possibly even more difficult. How do you get an idea of what their mental health might be like, their state might be like?
Happy child.
Okay.
You know, the way I always say, a happy wife, a happy life.
Yeah.
I think school, especially for children with autism, has to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, you try to make learning fun.
Okay.
You're trying to I suppose, build in their interests so that they can see that learning is fun. You work it, I suppose, again, you're aiming it at them. You're going from where they're at. Mm-hmm. Communication is huge. Giving them the ability to communicate, whether that be pre-verbal with pecs, they have a way of communicating. They can share their needs and their wants. I think, where am I even going with this? I've even lost my trail of thought. Like self-esteem with Tia. Tia was easy. Like for her to stand up in Scoware's Got Talent and perform, she has confidence. She backs herself.
Yes.
Gaelic football team.
Yes.
Very much with Tia, she's happy to be there. She's happy to participate.
Yes.
She doesn't have, now with other kids it's different. They have to win.
Yes.
Now that's one thing that's hard. And teaching that you don't always win.
Yes.
That winning comes with losing.
Yes.
That's a huge thing. Taking turns. Sharing.
That was a big thing for Tia, taking turns. Which now thankfully, it's really good.
And we structure it in school.
Yeah.
That it's visuals. That it's this person's turn then. It's this person's turn then. That you take the unpredictability out of turn taking.
Yeah. And
you structure it where they can clearly see who's next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that doesn't work for everybody. Again, one kid with autism is one kid with autism, but it's trial and error.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's very much trial and error. I suppose it's going back to what you said, that once you get that sort of foundation of information, then you go into the class and you just literally have to learn by experience.
The better you know the kids. I very much felt that the longer I was in it, the better. And I had your child for 3 years. Mm-hmm. By the third year, I knew her inside out, back to front, and she knew me inside out, back to front. Yeah. So it made teaching a lot easier because she knew what to expect and I knew what to expect.
Yeah.
And I knew her and I knew where she needed to go next. And that was the same with the rest of the children. The more you get to know the children, the easier it is to teach them.
Yeah.
And it's the same with every child.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, Kiri, thank you very much
You're very welcome.
For this. It's been absolutely fantastic. So, cheers.
Thanks.
Okay. So that was Kiri Lowry, and we hope you enjoyed the interview. We hope you got something from it. I think there was plenty in it.
Yes, a lot.
A lot in it, yes. Yeah. She's got a ton of experience, and it was fabulous just to hear her talk so openly about how much she cares about the kids, not just our kid, but all of the kids that she teaches.
Yes, because that's just one of our prayers. We just need one person or two or three would be great. It's a blast. It's more blessing to advocate for our child.
That's right.
And we got her.
We got her. Yeah, yes. We got her, yeah. So we are delighted with that. So what she was saying, actually, when I did the interview and stuff, what I took home, the take home, was something very small but really important, was about not asking a different question each time. So I got the 10-second rule, I have that down, it's great. Now I know, if I ask a question, just to frame it exactly the same way so as not to cause confusion or to make life more difficult for my kids. So that was absolutely fabulous. So we're really grateful for that.
Yes.
There was plenty of other things.
It's kind of teaching us to be patient as well.
Yeah.
Because we want to push, come on, Tia, answer me, Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, I was not actually helping my child because of that, So, we are. So if you have any questions.
Yes.
If you want to give us any suggestions on what you want to hear about, just email us in special shiny
podcast
at gmail.com.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening to the show, and we hope you subscribe because we have a ton of new stuff coming out soon, and it's going to be good. So take care of yourselves. Until next time, it's bye from me.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.